Doing a little testing here. Hopefully I don't see, oh that's good, I don't see the driver's or the license plate of the truck in front of me. They have testing today here in Waimea. So I figured what the heck, I'm going to interview Dr. Laura Ankrum about stuff, so this would probably be a good opportunity as the lead-in video. So please enjoy the podcast, and thank you, mahalo Dr. Laura, for being willing to be interviewed. Aloha and almost happy Mother's Day to Dr. Laura Ankrum. Good morning.
Good morning. Aloha.
How are you today? How's the weather? You guys live in Honolulu, yeah?
Yes, we do. And it's just beautiful here. It's about 70 degrees. The sun is out. Beautiful Hawaii day.
Oh, rub it into those people on the mainland, like on the East Coast, who are going through some kind of storms right now.
Yes, they're going to have a cold Mother's Day.
Well, okay. That kind of brings, will probably lead us in. You are a general practitioner at West Hawaii Community Health Center, right?
Yes.
Okay, which I say hi to Natasha for me, and
Yep.
everybody else there.
Yes.
But where'd you grow up? Did you grow up on the East Coast, West Coast?
So I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in a little town in Michigan that's called Otisville. It's very small. It's less than 1,000 people. We didn't have a stoplight until after I was out of college. So very small town.
Was it on the Upper P?
No, it wasn't. I'm considered a troll because I live under the bridge. I'm kind of a mid-Michigan girl because I'm not in the thumb and I wasn't near Detroit, kind of in the middle part there.
Yeah, so you're not Canadian either, yeah?
I'm not Canadian either. As you get closer going north, you get Canadian and that accent.
Well, I lived in Grand Marais and Hovland across the pond, right there, and we actually used to listen to the radio stations on the Upper P because that was the only thing that we had.
Yes. Yep.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go to high school?
So I was in Otisville my whole growing up and through high school, and then for our high school, it was a consolidated high school. So all the little elementaries would join together and have a high school, and they called it Otisville Lakeville High School was my high school, and I did a lot of sports through school. Started track when I was in 7th grade. But one of the sports that I really liked growing up, which is funny with my size, was basketball. I loved basketball.
and you have to, I mean, it's no secret to me or anything. You are what, 5'4"?
Yeah, like 5 foot, a little bit over 5 foot, and like 100 pounds. I'm super small. But I loved basketball growing up. And I played through high school. And once I got into high school, my track coach was like, you should run cross country, because in Michigan, basketball and cross country were the same season. But all my friends played basketball and I loved basketball. And I said, well, the only way I'm going to run is if my friends are going to run also. Yeah. So much to the basketball coaches' disappointment, we ended up changing over and becoming cross-country runners and track runners later. And it was wonderful. He had told me at the time, he said, he knew I wanted to go to college, and he was like, you maybe could walk onto a college basketball team somewhere, like a, Division III, very small college, but you and your teammates have the potential to run. He saw some potential in us, and so he convinced us to switch over to running.
Oh, that's great. I would guess that maybe you were a guard, not.
Yes, I was a point guard for sure, 100%.
So then in track, what did you cross country? That's usually 5K, maybe 1,500. Yeah.
Yes, we had 5Ks when I was in high school. So it was a 5K course. And then in track, my track coach was really strategic. So we would get placed in all sorts of different events.
Points for the team,
Points,
yeah.
points were huge. So I did hurdles sometimes. I do different relays, did the long jump. Kind of wherever we were needed, he would rotate us around.
Oh, great. Did you
Yeah.
end up getting a scholarship then because of the track?
So I did. I was very lucky and fortunate that I ended up going to Michigan State.
Oh, wow. Big school.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah. I always had wanted to. My initial dream was to play Big Ten basketball, which of course was, with my size, it's really not wasn't very realistic. But then I was fortunate enough when I switched over to running that I was able to run there.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you ran at Michigan, yeah? Michigan State.
Michigan State, yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, sorry.
Yes, that's a big one, yeah, for people from Michigan. There's a big difference.
I want to commit that crime.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Were you studying, was it medicine when you first went into college, or?
Yeah, I always liked science. So I went into a science major. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I started college, but I knew I liked science. And I was pretty much a pre-med track, but then I ended up finishing, I was a biology major, and then I finished, and I ended up taking a year off actually and doing some teaching. And then I applied for medical school after that and went to medical school.
Oh, Michigan State again for medical school, or?
No, I went to Iowa. I ended up in Des Moines, Iowa.
No, it's not Des Moines. It's Des Moines.
Yes, that's right.
Little Midwestern inside joke.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was in Minnesota. I was going to college and stuff in Minnesota. So
yeah, that's right. Yep.
Iowa is great. So you're going to medical school. You're going to become a physician.
Yep.
When did you meet this dude that you're married to now?
Yes, Mr. Adam. So the classic class that everyone takes your first year in medical school is anatomy lab. And so you are assigned to groups of 4 people. And luckily, our names, it's alphabetical. And so I was a B, I was Belle, and he was Ankrum. And we didn't end up in the same group, but we were right next to each other. And so that's how we started to know each other, was in our lab, because you literally spent hours in there as a first year. And so we spent a lot of time in that lab studying and learning, and after class hours and everything. And so you get to know your partners pretty well. And then one of my early friends, girlfriends, was in his group. And so she was always talking to both of us and thought she kind of was the matchmaker.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
So you're one of the few couples that was not set up by our good friend Bree Brown.
No, I was not. Yes. So she would be the Bree Brown of medicine.
And you found true love over dissecting frogs.
Yes. Yes. We'll say that.
And Adam was in biology, and he was going to medical school. And did you guys get married before you guys got out of school, after? Or?
So we were together all through school, got engaged, and then we got married right at the time that we graduated in 2000.
Oh, okay. Was he a runner dude at the time?
So he was always a short distance runner. He did track and ran short distances. So when I first met him and I was talking even about doing a 10-mile run, it was just something he never thought of, or kind of was like, what do you do? So,
nobody can run 10 miles. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But, over time, he's definitely become more of an endurance person. So I lengthened his runs and his races for sure.
Were you guys doing any triathlons then, or thinking about it, or just, usually people end up riding a bike and running and then think about triathlons later?
Yeah, so he didn't start getting into triathlon until kind of the last part of residency. Our residency was at a hospital that had a whole athletic club associated with it. So we were able to use the pool. And he started swimming, and then we started biking during that time when we were residents. And then when we moved, we did our residency in Michigan, and then we moved to Wisconsin to work. And then when we moved to Wisconsin was when Adam started doing triathlons.
Oh, okay. Where was he from?
Yeah.
Was he from?
He's from Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, sure. You betcha.
Yes, that is him.
I didn't realize that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I'll have to talk. I'll have to do an online interview with him too. I know Ron. Oh, I want to mention for sure. Ronnie Henderson, who writes for West Hawaii Today, did a great article with Adam last week, where she questioned him medical stuff, which was great. And a lot of people have mentioned it to me, saying it was great because it was just facts. It was medical information that people were asking about. And then yesterday, she did a very questionable article about me. But I want to, mahalo to Ronnie for doing both articles for sure.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, she's an excellent writer. Keeps our news out there for us.
And we're gonna get you, Ronnie. We're gonna interview you. You're on the list. I'm gonna figure out how I can sneak up on you, maybe. So you guys are then in Minnesota, and doing
in Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin. Sorry, which hospital in Wisconsin?
Bay Area Medical Center.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I grew up Chicago, so I kind of know.
Yeah, so we were on the east side of Wisconsin.
Now let's see. When you were in Wisconsin, the drinking age was 18?
Probably. Yes, we had more bars than anything else in the town we lived in.
Oh, well, that's it's great now that you're a long distance runner and Adam does long distance stuff, but the appreciation of beer was different back in those days, but we still appreciate it now.
Yes.
What's the first race that you can remember, let's say 10K or above?
That I did?
Yeah.
So I started running in 7th grade. So I was around 12 years old, and the area I grew up in actually has a lot of road races that aren't very far away. And so my coach had me run like a 5K on the road when I was probably around 12 years old.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
It's like we talk about Tiffany sometime later and stuff too, but your kids, we'll get into your talented team there.
Yeah.
What's the first marathon that you can remember doing?
So I did a marathon when I was in medical school. I had decided after college that I needed a challenge. And at the time I graduated from college, they didn't have the running groups that they do now. I probably would have gone into a running group if I'd had that opportunity, but they didn't exist in the 90s. So I decided I was going to do a marathon. And my first marathon was Grandma's Marathon in Duluth.
Oh, wow. That's very well known. Yeah.
Yeah. And it worked out great because my in-laws lived in the Twin Cities. That's where Adam grew up, in the Twin Cities. And so they were, of course, really excited to show me Minnesota, and everybody trekked up to Duluth to watch me run. And it was really great. It was a very supported, very fun marathon to start out with.
Yeah, did they have cheese curds at the finish line?
Yes. Yeah. Yep, the cheese curds. Yep, for sure.
And was so did you guys run it together? Adam ran it and you ran it, or?
So this was before Adam was doing, I think the farthest probably that point he had done as far as a race was a 10K. He had done a 10K with some friends a few years ago, but other than that, he really wasn't running very far. So
it was no competition.
No. So there wasn't any family rivalry. But he's very strategic, and so I think I saw him more times on that course probably than any other competitor as far as my crew, calling him my crew. And he actually went to school in Duluth for 2 years. So he knew Duluth and he knows that area really well. So he knew all the little roads that he could come in. It's a point-to-point course. So he was driving along and cheered me on through the whole thing.
Yeah, no, well, I used to live up in Hovland.
Okay.
Up towards past Grand Marais and stuff. So Highway 61, yeah.
Yep, yeah.
Very, very nice up there. I still miss that. Did you guys go up to the Boundary Waters canoe area when you're up there at all?
Adam and I have never done that together. I know it's it's on our list someday. He certainly has, but I have not.
Yeah, that's a very, very special place.
Yes.
So you guys are doing your medical thing somehow with being doctors and stuff, still finding time to do runs.
Yes.
I think. From the Midwest, did you go out to the West Coast? Did you go straight from the West Coast to Hawaii? I don't know how you guys came here.
So we were in Wisconsin almost 10 years. We practiced there. And what we would do in the winter, because as you know, being from the Midwest, the winters are very long. We would always go somewhere for education. We had continuing medical education, and we would always go somewhere warm. And my requirement was that I could wear running shorts. I would tell Adam, I don't care where we go, but I want to be able to wear running shorts and run. So one year we went to Florida thinking it would be warm enough. And it was the year that the Walt Disney Marathon, it was freezing, the Gatorade froze, there was ice on the road. Kids had to wear all their winter stuff. They were literally wearing face masks, along the course when they were watching us. And we're like, we can't do that. We need to go somewhere that's warm. So then the next year we went to Hawaii for a medical conference. And then we were like, this is the place. This is nice. I can always wear running shorts here.
Yeah, what are pants?
Yes, exactly. And we were just at the point in our careers where our hospital was about to get taken over by a very large hospital. Mm-hmm. And there were some things that we were just ready to change. And there was a job here for Adam, and we said, we're going to go for it.
Now you briefly mentioned the kids.
Yes.
Okay, you better that you name them off and their ages and stuff, because I always lose track.
Yes. So somehow we started naming all our kids A's. We have Adam, who's the dad, and then our oldest is Alec, and he's 17. Aiden is middle, and he's 15, and then Archer is our youngest, and he's 12.
Oh man! So are they all home now, or? They
are.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, they're not home right now. They're two of them are running with Adam, but one of them's home.
And I've been privileged enough to watch him grow up. I'm going 17 now. Holy!
I know.
Oh,
it seemed possible.
Well, it is impossible. These are some fake children that have come into our lives, I think. When you moved to Hawaii, you had all of them? I mean, you already had them and stuff?
Yes, and it was a good timing for them because they were still in elementary school. And that was another reason for the timing of our move. We decided if we were going to move, we needed to do it when they were still in elementary school. So they were, I think they were like 5th and 3rd and 1st grade when we moved here.
And they're quite the athletes. Trust me, as I've
yeah, they are.
As you watch them get faster and faster and faster, and you can keep up with. Well, you can you're ahead of them to begin with, and then they catch up to you. And can any of them beat you yet?
Oh yeah, so Alec definitely, when he was about 12 or 13, just kind of took off and was gone from me. And then our middle son has been a swimmer. He identifies as a swimmer, and he's very good in the water. And he's just, since he's been in high school, started running. But he's ahead of me now. Definitely short stuff, he's ahead of me. So I'm still hanging on to Archer, but it's not long.
I do notice that they tend to be very focused for kids when they're doing events and stuff. They seem to be like, I don't want to say they're serious, but they seem to have maybe a good approach to being logical about how they're going to do run and planning.
Yeah, I think they've it probably a little bit is how they've grown up. They've grown up around races. We've taken them to races, and had this wonderful ohana of athletes that we've known for years. And so I think they've kind of learned by example those kind of traits. And early on, they used to do a lot of different sports. Adam would be like, what are you signing them up for now? But they were in martial arts and t-ball and baseball and soccer. And I just introduced them to a lot of sports because I didn't want them to feel like they had to go into endurance sports or running or, individual sports. Or I wanted to let them have, let them choose what they wanted to do. And we're just really fortunate that they kind of tended to go towards where they are now, which is running and swimming and triathlon.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are just amazing. As much as you participate and volunteer at races and have obviously some full-time careers, both of you. I mean, it's crazy what you guys are able to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been wonderful. Just the athletic community and the endurance community especially is just so amazing.
So I know for a fact that you have indeed done Kauai Marathon, because I still remember you coming down the hill when I'm still heading up the hill to head towards that wonderful section between mile 18 and 21.
Yes.
Have you done all the marathons on the islands?
I haven't done very many marathons here. I've done 21 marathons in total. But just the timing of when we moved here, I wasn't doing many marathons. I was coming off of a really busy practice and hadn't been doing a lot of marathons. So it's only been in like recent years that I've started running a little bit more to be in shape for a marathon.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kauai Marathon is nothing to sniff at. I mean, it's yeah. It's one of the most scenic races and stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, so I didn't preview the course before. So I had no idea how hard that second part was. And I was having I really enjoyed it. It's just gorgeous. But the first half of the marathon, you run with the half marathoners. And so I'm talking away, and I had a few women that I was running with, and it was great, and I felt good, and the weather was perfect. And then we get to that point where they turn off and you turn to the right, and I was all alone. And you start to climb, and then I'm like, oh, I maybe should have thought about how this course is.
And I always mention that when you get up to that one point up to the little town there, and it's actually a golf course, but I always look at it like this is a cemetery.
Yes, that would be a good way.
Thank goodness they do have beer at, when you go around the backside on the gravel road there, the 1-8 station, you can get beer from them.
Yes. Yeah. I love the aid stations there. Just the people. I remember there was some kids out, and they had little orange slices, and the music, and it's just gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that one section when you're coming back out of town downhill, that family that yes. The kids just do a little aid station.
Yes, I love that. Yep.
And yeah, they have halals dancing. They have taiko drummers drumming
Yes.
along the course and stuff, and the volunteers are just highly recommended. You know, if and
Yeah.
whenever we get an opportunity to do Kauai Marathon. You've done Honolulu, right?
No, I haven't done Honolulu. We're signed up this year. Adam and I both signed up, but I don't, you know, know what's going to happen with that. But yeah.
I'll give you a preview of the course. Easy to start out with as you go through Chinatown. In fact, there's Murphy's Bar on the corner. Actually, they're open, not for drinks, but there's a restroom in there that you can use. And then when you come around the back and you head out towards Triangle Park, well, you have to run over Diamond Head, which is usually kind of a mess. But there is enough track, dirt track on the left side as you're going up that you can pass people, because there's a lot of people usually. Yeah. And my goal has always been to get to the top of Diamond Head at least somewhat around the time when the Kenyan runners are coming down.
Oh, yes.
And finishing. They do a great job. I hope they can pull it off this year, but I have my doubts. I mean, yeah. We just don't know. We just don't know. Yeah. And so far, you know, me as a race director, I had to cancel Run for the Hops because Lava Man, the whole Lava Man event. Well, you guys were signed up for Lava Man, I would guess?
You know, we actually weren't. It was the first year that we weren't. I was going to do the Hapalua, and it was the same weekend this year. Yeah.
And so we had to cancel that. And I think Jerry did the right thing to just go ahead and cancel it instead of trying to delay it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that was, Run for the Hops was before that. I canceled that. We canceled that. And then the Sunset 5K Run, we canceled. And let's see, what was coming up next? Well, Honu has been canceled. Were you guys signed up to do Honu Triathlon?
We weren't signed up for that one.
No. Okay. Yeah, because that's delayed until August 15th. But in my opinion, I don't think that'll happen. And then Brent Inneman just canceled Kona Marathon, the Kona Marathon at Waikoloa.
Right.
Yeah, and stuff. So that one's canceled. Keely and Adam canceled the Ohia Half Marathon. Did you do that last year, the one up in Volcano?
No, we were on the mainland. We were in Seattle when that happened. So.
What, speaking of mainland and stuff, what races that we might know of that you've done, what marathons have you done on the mainland besides Grandma's that, you know,
Yes, I did. I've done Grandma's several times. Detroit Marathon in my home state. I've done that a couple times. I did the Glass City Marathon is my only marathon win. It's in Toledo, Ohio. So I won. I've done that one. I did the old Vegas Marathon before it was like a rock and roll or however it's changed now. So I did that one. I think I did that one twice. There was a time when I was trying to get a time, a fast time. And so I would do some marathons that were faster courses.
Have you gotten a BQ time?
Yes. Yeah. No, I've done Boston twice.
Oh, just a small marathon. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I've done it Boston twice. And then I was fortunate enough when I started running marathons that I had a coach for a short time. And my goal was to do Olympic trials, qualifying. So I worked with him and I was able to I qualified for the 2000 Olympic marathon trials.
Oh, wow. So you went and ran in the trials?
I did. But ironically, at the time, I was still a medical student and I was working in an emergency room in Arizona. And I got some kind of virus. Like 2 days before the trials. And so I was pretty sick. So unfortunately it was a loop course. So I did a 10-mile loop of the course. I wasn't able to do the whole thing, but it was a great experience being there. It was awesome.
And this was in 2000, yeah?
2000, yeah.
And where were the trials at? Where were they?
Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh. Hilly course or non-hilly course? I know this year's was a hilly course.
This year's was a lot hillier. It wasn't particularly hilly. It wasn't, you know, like this year's was a great spectator loop course. The course did a 10-mile loop that came back into town, and then it kind of went out again. But it wasn't particularly hilly. It was humid. It was really hot. It wasn't a fast course. And it was, it kind of changed, I think it changed distance running, because that year we only had, especially for women, we had one woman that made the qualifying standard because it was so hot and humid. And then after that, I think is when those running groups started developing, and like Hanson's in Michigan, the Hanson's running group, that started, and some of the other groups that have come across our country for distance runners.
Do you remember anybody else? I mean, any of the other competitors in that race?
Yeah, I don't remember who, like it's been so long, who the top runners were. The woman who won was, I think her name was Chris Clark, or she was a pathologist. Anyway, I remember her being a pathologist from Alaska. And she had trained in her like basement at like hot levels and on her treadmill. And so she was used to hot and humid, even though she was from Alaska. And she just knew that pace, and she just ran that pace, and she won and had the qualifying time.
Well, I'm hoping to snag Lauren,
Yes.
you know, because you know, I know Matt and I know Lauren and stuff, and I want to interview her about, you know, her race and stuff. Not interested. I'm not interested in the guy with the mustache. Sorry, Matt. Well, that's amazing. I didn't realize that you're Olympic trials and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, holy smokes. And what years Boston? Do you remember what years you did Boston?
So we did Boston first in 2010. And that was our 10-year anniversary. And so Adam and I wore these shirts because Boston's great. I always tell people, put your name on your shirt, because the crowd is awesome and they will yell your name and they will yell whatever you put on your shirt. And so we had these shirts that we wrote on. It said, you know, Laura loves Adam, celebrating our 10th anniversary. And it was so much fun. So we ran the first 20 miles together. And then this was a time when we've kind of gone back and forth with what kind of shape we're in. And in 2010, I was in a little better shape. And Adam was just getting in his endurance shape, because he's, you know, like more of a sprinter guy. And so he's, you know, just getting in his long distance shape. And we got to some of the hills, and he's like, you gotta go, I'm gonna slow you down. And I'm like, are you sure? And then, you know, and we've always had this agreement. We're very friendly about it. You know, we don't, you know, if you have it, you go, you know, we let each other, we know that, our family knows that, you know, you just go for it. And so, so I took off, and I could literally hear people yelling, Adam, she's in front of you, go get her. Adam, she's there. And so they were tracking us for the last 6 miles, and they'd be yelling at him, your wife's 40 seconds up on you, you gotta go. So it was awesome. It was the most fun marathon, I think, because with our shirts. So it was great.
Oh, that's a great story. Holy smokes. Yeah. I didn't realize that he had qualified and stuff too, but that's awesome that you guys could do it together.
Yes. Yeah. So, so that's my advice to people in Boston. If you run Boston, is put your name really big on your shirt, or whatever you want people to yell, whatever your mantra is, or whatever you want. So we actually did it in 2013 also. Yeah. So we were there that year.
Yeah, I've gotten in trouble because there's been times in races, if I'm spectating, or even if I'm running and I see 2 people that I know, I'll usually tell the girls to catch those ugly boys.
Yes.
I never tell the boys to catch the girls, though.
Yeah.
Usually proud to. I remember we were doing a race with McKeely Jones one time, and I think it might have been the Path Run the week before Ironman, and I just kept rubbing it into the guys. I said, "You got chicked."
Yes.
You got chicked, which is fine.
Yeah.
So, you know, in speaking of the lady who you know, ran inside
Yes.
in Alaska and stuff.
Yes.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about people nowadays, or because of the COVID-19
Yes.
and the way the quarantine has worked out. A lot of people are inside. I see a lot of people on treadmills and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're blessed and lucky here in
We
Hawaii to be within. Yeah, I mean, I'm literally 10 minutes away from where I go out and run. But and maybe if we can talk specifically about the lady athletes who are now, I don't want to say confined, that's not the right word, but if you're kind of forced to train inside, do you have nutrition advice for them, injury advice, anything that you can share, about how you've been dealing with it?
Yeah, we're really blessed here that we do have more space to get out, but it's even challenging where we live because of the way the roads are, that you don't necessarily have a great like there's dead end roads and you don't have a great loop or a great access that you can put together like a 5 or 6 mile run very easily. So I think you have to get creative with workouts. I think it's important. Probably the biggest thing is your attitude, and it's hard right now because typically as athletes we have a training plan and we have something we're training for, and it gives us motivation, and not having those and not knowing what that's going to look like really for the next 6 months to a year makes it difficult. So I think one of the things we can is to do the things that we sometimes don't do maybe as much, such as working on your core, doing more stretching, things that you can do that don't involve, that you can do from your home. And then just trying to really focus on whatever parts of exercise that you can do that make you happy or kind of relieve your stress, I think are important.
So maybe not, we all as athletes, let me click that. We all as athletes have, like you said, goals, but sometimes we push ourselves,
Right.
And, I think with my stuff that I'm doing now, I'm within a comfortable level. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you think this, same thing, you shouldn't really, it's great to have challenges, but maybe not physically right now to do ultimate challenges.
Right. And I think that's important. I think you think of it as kind of like almost like an off-season training that, or even, like I know for myself, I'm just doing a lot of a slower pace runs, and maybe I don't have an area that I can go really far right now in our neighborhood. So I'm doing hills. I'm doing a few more hills, but I'm not doing anything really intensely. Just getting out and exercising and trying to be in the moment that you're running and enjoy looking at things around a little more instead of being intensely following a specific training plan right now.
Yeah. Well, and our good friend Frank Shorter, who used to come to the Kona Marathon all the time, I think he was the one who said there's speed work built into hills, so you can get your speed work in by running hills.
Yes. Yep. And where we live is near Laco Street, which is very steep. So you can go in the roads there and in the streets and really get quite a bit of hill workout in a short amount of time. And even hiking the hills right now. Some of our hills that are pretty steep, or the steep gradients, even hiking is good, kind of off-season training.
Would you have any kind of nutritional advice, specifically for women? I know iron has always been, I've lived at altitude a lot, and in Colorado, I remember I had plenty of women athletes that I know that were anemic.
Yes. Yeah, and I think women athletes in particular need to be really aware of the iron supply that you're getting in your diet, and most women athletes need an iron supplement. So just making sure that you get that checked and kind of know where you're at, because especially for a lot of women, I think the iron deficiency anemia kind of sneaks up on us because a lot of times we're doing many things, you know, we have kids, we're, you know, doing school stuff for them, we're working, we're trying, you know, to do these workouts, and you're a little more tired and you just write it off as I'm just tired, or I just, you know, I'm not recovering right, or I'm out of shape, or I'm getting older. And a lot of times the iron is what you need. So,
what do you use as far as nutrition and stuff? Obviously, I have to point to Tailwind here because I'm sponsored by Tailwind.
Yeah. So when I started, you know, I started doing marathons in the 90s, and there wasn't, nutrition really wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't really something, and like, I kind of think back to college, and like, we didn't even talk about it really. So I've always just, I've been lucky. My parents had a huge garden growing up, and so we always ate fresh vegetables, and then we, you know, freeze our vegetables. And then here it's really nice because, you know, I can grow pineapples in my yard, and papaya and avocado, and, you know, your access to local foods is so wonderful, that I focus a lot on eating what's locally. And I'm lucky my digestive system can pretty much take anything, so I can, you know, eat some fruit and go running, and it's really not an issue for me. I haven't done a lot of endurance stuff, but I'm starting to do more marathons now, or I'm planning to do more marathons. So I probably will look at getting a little more specific with nutrition when I'm running.
Have you done over a marathon? Have you done a 50K?
I've done 2 50Ks, both trail runs.
Oh, where?
Yeah. We did one in Wisconsin, and then the other one was in Arizona, in the desert.
Okay. Did you enjoy it? I mean,
yeah,
I think trails are the place to be honest.
I know. Yeah, they were both, the Wisconsin one, Adam and I signed up for that one together, and we ran quite a bit of that one together too. And we were very naive. I think it was probably around 2010 or whatever. And we were getting to the starting line, and everybody's like, "Oh, you know, is this your first ultra?" And we're like, "What's an ultra?" Like, we didn't even know. We had just signed up, and we were like, "Oh," and they're like, "Oh, anything above 26 miles is an ultra." I'm like, "Oh, I guess then it is our first ultra. We don't know." So we just kind of showed up, and we ran together about 20 miles in that one too. That's kind of where Adam and I were pretty equivalent for 20 miles. And then he was like, "Oh man," he's like, "I'm gonna walk." You can go ahead. So I would have had it finished. He did finish, but he did hike last 6-7 miles.
Oh, hiking is the key part of long distance races and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Did they have aid stations and stuff? Aren't the aid stations and ultras just great?
I love the aid stations and ultras. Yeah, it's so great. You know, I stop, you talk story, you got all these different foods to choose from. And, you know, we had a lot of cheese. I think we had cheese at the aid station because every race in Wisconsin has cheese. So we had cheese probably.
Sometimes you're lucky and you get Fireball.
Yeah, you get Fireball. Yeah, that's big there.
I didn't realize that you guys had done those 50Ks and stuff. That's
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
And so, like, for your nutrition, even on marathons, I mean, I'll do PB&J or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I like at Honolulu, you can actually find some real food when you're coming back the last stretch on Kaneohe Highway and stuff. There's some people that come out with stuff.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I've used some of the gels. I don't particularly like the gels, just the consistency of them. I don't know. I mean, I'll eat anything. So, I mean, I'll take a gel sometimes. I've done the blocks more, the chews, like the honey sting chewers. I'll do chews a little bit more. But if I have the option of doing like oranges or some other type of food, or, you know, that's usually what I'll go for.
Yeah, I was surprised when I interviewed Billy Barnett, our friend Billy Barnett. His rule of thumb, amazing guy, but anything under 4 hours, he doesn't even drink water. I mean,
oh, wow.
Over 4 hours, he'll actually take some water and stuff. It's like,
wow,
dude.
Yeah, no, I definitely take water, and I usually, like in the early marathons that I did, well, I mean, they still do this. The race will advertise whatever fluid they're going to use, and then I'll just train with whatever fluid it is they're going to use on the course. So I've had a variety of fluids that I've used.
Yeah, I think that's the smart. That's what I advise people to do. It's like find out what they're serving on the course and then try and use it. And you'll find out ahead of time if it suits you or if it doesn't suit you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in, you know, if people are being more, unfortunately, have to be more sedentary, you know, under our somewhat lockdown, even though it's kind of started to open up briefly. Any are you a believer in vitamin supplements, or just, well, obviously for yourself, you get it, you get most of your, try to get most of your vitamins and stuff through real food, but
yeah,
sometimes real food's not available for some people.
Right. I do think, especially if you know, a lot of it I think is best to get through your diet, but you know, the reality is that not everybody has access to fresh produce and food. So I think a lot of my patients, I'll recommend, you know, like a multivitamin for sure. And then in particular, there is some evidence as far as helping your immunity. I recommend vitamin C and zinc. I think those are really important. And then it's still, I don't quite understand it here because we have such a tropical sunny environment, but a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. And so I usually check a lot of vitamin D levels and make sure that people have adequate vitamin D.
Really? Here, I would, yeah,
Yes.
That's something I wouldn't have suspected at all.
Yeah, because when I was in Wisconsin, of course, there were a lot of people that had vitamin D deficiency. And I don't know if here it's because there's people that are really, I mean, it's good. People are very diligent about sunscreen and, you know, sun protection. But for whatever reason, I still see a lot of vitamin D deficiency here.
Oh, yeah, boy, that would be news to me too. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. When people start, I think it's great. Your advice is great about treating this as training, but not, you know, with specific race in mind, maybe at this time, and as recovery. If somebody is injured now, is there anything, I don't even know. Have you ever been injured?
You know, I'm really lucky. I've been a runner for 35 years and I've really never had a running injury. I can be kind of klutzy, so I've had falls that have resulted in like more fall injuries. And there you go. So I mean, I can for sure say that I've never had a running injury. Probably my worst fall that I had was in Wisconsin on the ice. I was running on, you know, that road that was really icy, and I actually dislocated my knee. I popped my kneecap out of place, but number one, I'm a very stubborn distance runner, and number two, I'm a physician, and we're like the worst patients. And so, of course, I just like, I don't know, I was a couple miles from home, and I just kind of like hobble and hop, and however I get home, and then I like, you know, pop it back into place after I get home, and I, you know, and then I just kind of go on after that. So
it's like the advice when you break a toe. Okay, get some duct tape, tape it to the next toe, and just keep going.
Yes, yeah. So that's kind of how, I don't know, I just kind of go, I'm lucky. My body was probably made for running because I'm small, and it seems to tolerate, you know, my joints are all good and seems to tolerate distance. And so I've never been injured like that, but my falls, my family knows that I'm kind of fall prone.
Well, see, I always considered I do the same thing. I still have a little thingy from
Yes,
the last
yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
I know how to fall. That's important.
Yes, yes, I have learned that now.
What do you use for equipment? What are you running? What kind of shoe do you run in?
So this probably isn't scientific, but I've always believed that rotating shoes is important. And so I usually have like 2 or 3 different types of shoes, different, you know, manufacturers of shoes, different running shoe companies at one time. And I'm always rotating through different ones. Recently though, with the hills that I've been doing, I've never really liked the Hokas because of the way I run. I'm a toe runner, like a true toe runner. And it just feels like they throw off my gait, but I will use them on the hill for like going down. They seem to really cushion my knees better. So if I'm doing a run that's just basically up and down, which is some of the loops that I do here in my neighborhood, I'll use my Hokas for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you have any specific, do you run in a vest ever, running vest or anything?
I've got this old, I think it's a Camel Pack, and it's a small one, and I've kind of converted it, and I'll use that when I'm running.
And what's your bike? What's your bike when you do triathlons?
I am so bad at that. Flying bikes. I am horrible at that. That is just one place my brain doesn't go. So, I really haven't done, I have an old Quintana Roo. I have an old tri bike of that. I have an S-Works road bike that I really like right now. That's usually, I'm into comfort when I bike. So,
yeah,
so I haven't been very serious about triathlon ever. And I have really only done very small kind of casual triathlons.
Well, we can thank our friends, who do tryptophan triathlons and stuff on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And yes. I'm going to see if I can I want to interview Kim Kaiser too. Her sometime.
Yeah, she's wonderful. How committed she is to the community and those events that she puts on, or her triathlon.
And not to, I think it'll be okay. I think it's HIPAA compliant, but Kim has shared to me that she has Hashimoto's disease.
Okay. Yep.
And, I don't know that much about it, although I know some people who are ketogenic, that's how they kind of self-treat it.
Sure. So it's a thyroid disorder, and it's basically that your body starts attacking your thyroid. It senses your normal thyroid hormone as a foreign invader. And so it can either cause your thyroid to be underactive or overactive. So it can be difficult to manage sometimes because it'll swing. And again, it's a hormonal thing. And so our hormonal system is very sensitive to external things like stress and diet and exercise. So a lot of people do find focusing on certain diets can help regulate that.
Yeah, I've been kind of ketogenic for a while. Bulletproof coffee and stuff like that. And from, in my case, I have, thanks to my mom, happy Mother's Day, Mom, I have psoriasis and stuff, which is, autoimmune disease and asthma and all that good stuff, which kind of brings up, since I am certainly over 60, over 70, I'm technically at risk, because of the asthma and stuff. I went to they had a free clinic, testing clinic up at Waimea Park, which after I ran on Mono Road, I kind of went, I'll drive past there to see how many cars are lined up, what it's like. There are very few people, cars lined up. I was behind one car, which in the intro, I filmed and stuff when I'm sitting there. The tests were fine. The people were great. I got both tests. I got the Q-tips up the nose, which was not uncomfortable. It wasn't, I wouldn't want to walk around with them like that. Right. But, it's something that you just, it takes 10 seconds is all it takes for each nostril. And then I went ahead and we went around the corner and stuff, and I did they pulled blood, so you can still see the bruise and stuff in there, to do the other test and everything. I don't know. Would you recommend, even if you're, let's say in my position, would you recommend to people that they go ahead and get the test? Or if you don't have any symptoms at all? I wake up with 4 of the symptoms every day, but.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult question, but I think you have to look at it individually. But if you do have risk factors, like you say, you have age and then some underlying conditions, and you have some symptoms that you don't know, you would definitely be somebody I would recommend doing what you did, is seeing if it's accessible. And luckily we're very fortunate on the Big Island that we do have these outdoor testing centers that I think are very safe and well staffed and in a good way to get a test done and see where you're at.
Yeah, I was part of my reason to go to was I wanted to see if your husband was working there.
Oh yeah.
And I do have my thermometer.
Oh great. Those have been in short supply.
Oh, this took a month and a half.
Yes, I can
Because
believe that.
I didn't have one really, and I kind of went, well, I should probably order one.
Yeah.
And it basically came with it's a battery that's run down, but it still works and
Yes.
stuff, because it took a month and a half to get here. And I told when they were taking my, this skin surface temperature thing, I said, well, this will give me a chance to calibrate this to see how accurate or inaccurate this is.
Right.
Which skin surface is usually higher.
Yeah, they've gotten better with those thermometers, so they're more accurate than they used to be. But there is a little. I would say it's probably slightly higher.
And I'm an individual. I don't know. I think it's probably because of the asthma and stuff. I usually have a lower temperature. I usually have 95.
Yes.
94.
Yeah, there is. Everyone kind of thinks of the 98 as a normal temperature, but there's a lot of variance in that. And it is, you do see people that know that their temperature is lower, and that's just what your body runs at.
Oh, and the 98.6, I read up on it a little bit. That was like from 1,000 years ago.
It is. It's old data for sure. It's not what we see clinically. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah. What are you? I mean, I know you're working and stuff. What are you seeing is there anything? I don't want to do anything that's not HIPAA compliant. But are there any what are you seeing more of or less of nowadays?
Well, the one thing about everybody staying home is we're not passing normal colds, and we're not passing, here on the island of Hawaii, we see influenza all year round. And so we have like really extremely low influenza activity now on the island. It was high in March. We were seeing both A and B influenza in March. And then since then, and with the stay-at-home orders, our influenza counts have gone way down. And we're just not really seeing sick people, which is wonderful. I mean, even people with sniffles, the number of people that are sick has gone way down. I'm very fortunate with the health center that I work for. We're a community health center, and we've had very good support from the state, and we've been able to have an outdoor testing tent that runs 6 days a week. And it's been since March that we've done it. We were one of the very first testing sites on our island, and we were packed. When I worked it in March, we would see 25 people a day. And now there's days that we're only seeing 6 or 7. So it's really gone down a lot.
And that it does make sense. I mean, when I'm doing bike ed and stuff. Oh yeah, I mean, I would catch the flu, last couple of years, just because the contact with the kids. But now that school is out,
yeah,
they're basically with their families and unfortunately, not interacting with other kids. How are are your kids adjusting to that? Have they managed to? I mean, you have enough. No offense, you have enough kids that they can interact with themselves.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think it's very challenging on everybody, but I think teenagers, it's a pretty hard situation, because if most of us, we think back when we were teenagers, our parents didn't know anything, and we definitely didn't want to hang out with our parents all the time. So your friends are 100% your social network that you would prefer. And I think just depending on if you're an extrovert or an introvert, then that kind of factors in. So 2 of my sons they're pretty comfortable with it. They exercise, they don't mind doing online school. That's been good. And then my other son, he's definitely more extroverted, and his social circle is very important to him. And so it's been challenging. I've never really liked how much technology there is with kids today. But now I find myself saying to them, it's okay, go ahead. So luckily they have that. I mean, if I think about if this would have happened when I was a teenager, I wouldn't have had any way to connect with my friends. So
yeah, I think
we're fortunate in that way.
I mean, I was in a relationship where her son was a real tech person. He ended up actually going into the military, into military intelligence, smart guy. And it at the time it was like, well, why do you always play Call of Duty?
Right.
All the time. And nowadays it's kind of Fortnite is another thing. But yeah, I'm still kind of up in the air about that. I think too much of anything is probably bad.
Right.
But they are technologically more geared anyway.
Yes.
I get a little I don't know. I look at it back when we were all out together and hanging out.
Yes.
At the races, people would be talking to each other, talking during, after, and before, and everything. When you're in a different social setting, like a restaurant or any place else, people are doing this. They're
I know.
looking at their phone, and it's like,
yeah.
No, look at me. I think people that's part of the reason I want to do these little Zoom thingies, because I mean, people on the island you guys are some of the best athletes I know. I think some of the best athletes in the world. We get spoiled. We can train year round.
Yes.
And I think it's important that our stories get out and stuff. And I think it's been great to, experience and find out more about people and what they're doing, particularly now and stuff.
Yes.
And that's my motivation. Ronnie asked me that in the interview. Well, why are you doing it? It's like, I wish we had this technology 20 years ago to tell the stories that we had here on the island 20 years ago.
Right.
And so hopefully it's a good aspect of technology, but
yes. Yeah.
You're right. I couldn't imagine. I mean, I feel a lot of empathy now for the kids who graduated.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My nephew is graduating high school, and it's been very difficult for him not to have those normal milestones and the celebrations. And so it's challenging.
And I think people have speculated, well, is there going to be like sometimes here when we had the earthquake back in 2006, the birth rate goes up.
Yes.
People are, dealing with that, but people have speculated that probably won't happen now because there is no particular end date.
Yes. Yep. Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Have you, I'm guessing that you still are treating a lot of women that are expecting babies still?
Yeah, that's been kind of difficult. And what's happened for me is I'm a family practice doctor. I'm a generalist, and our clinic luckily has been able to stay open because we separate so much and we use our external tent for anyone that has any kind of symptom. They're not brought into our clinic. So then we've been one of the only clinics that's been actually seeing patients. So then sometimes we're seeing pregnant women and doing some other things that we normally would have the specialists do, but we're following them in our office and seeing babies and doing those kind of things.
And that's kind of what I miss is I miss seeing the keikis and stuff and,
yes.
And everything. I get to see dogs now. At least I get on where I run and stuff. I get to see dogs. And you have a dog below you somewhere?
I do. Yeah, he's sleeping on his beanbag.
Well,
I think I wore him out.
We won't disturb him. Thank you for taking him for a walk.
Yes.
So did you have it doesn't sound like you were signed up for any of the races this year outside of Honolulu?
Yeah, the biggest thing that, we've all had disappointments, but the biggest thing that probably for me that I'm not able to do was the Hapalua. I had actually, through Bree Brown, how she gets people into things. she had convinced me to start doing track workouts with her, and I had qualified for the Team Hawaii, and so I was going to be in the chase. So so my focus through the first part of the year was to try to get some of my track speed back, and I got enough back that I was able to make the team.
Okay.
So,
Can you maybe explain that to people that don't know about Hapalua and that the qualifying and stuff?
yeah, so I'm new to this whole thing, but it's awesome. It's this half marathon that's on Oahu, and they invite elite runners who are usually Kenyan runners, and they'll usually be between 2 to 4 probably elite or professional runners, and then they form a team from Hawaii, which is I'm not sure how many runners that Jonathan usually has. It's usually around probably 12 to 15 runners from Hawaii, and from the different islands. He'll select from, depending on, you have to make time, so you have to be fast enough for a certain time. So if there's a year, it could be that everybody's from Oahu, but he does try to represent the different islands if he can. And then what he does, he's very good at looking at your times, looking at your recent times, and then he staggers you, and you start before the big mass start of the half marathon, and you get to start, and then depending on your time, you'll start anywhere from like 5 minutes to 10 minutes in front of the Kenyans, and you see how far you can run and get to the finish line before they catch you. And so his whole goal is to have, like 12 of us in the last 200 meters all running, and then these Kenyans running up, behind us. Is kind of, what the finish looks like if he gets it right with what their times are and where they're at and where the local runners are.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I knew some of that, but I didn't know the details and stuff.
Yeah. So
had you had any other races later in the year and stuff that you had signed up for or looking towards?
Well, I want to, Honolulu, and then there is a big race in Michigan that I've done a lot, and it's the Crim Festival of Races. It's a 10-mile race. Initially, it was a 10-mile race. They've done it since 1978. It's downtown Flint. You get to run on the bricks. It's
what's the bricks? What's the bricks?
So, so when Flint was built, they wanted to have something kind of special in their downtown area. So the busiest main street, you would call it, they decided to line it with bricks. The actual road is made of bricks.
Oh, okay.
So it's really cool because you come down the finish line, downtown Flint. It's like the best day of the year, I think, for the city. Everybody comes out to support it. It's grown in years. It's associated with the Special Olympics. They have a Special Olympics event the night before the race. They bring Kenyans into the race. And then one year it was the U.S. Road Nationals for the 10-mile run. So they've had some very elite runners there in the past.
And what time of the year is it?
It's August. It's always the 4th Saturday in August. So it's kind of up in the air. They sent out a survey just a couple of days ago to ask runners, how likely are you to run the event? What types of things would make you run or not make you run? Just, I think, to try to get a feel. It's a big event. It's usually 10,000 people. So it's a pretty big event.
Oh, that's great that they involve Special Olympics too. I think that's great.
Yep.
Big shout out to Denise Lindsay here on the Big Island, who works Special Olympics all the time.
Yes. Yep.
Anything you're thinking about for next year as far as racing goes?
Well, I'd like to get back into marathons and longer races. Was kind of my goal. My plan was to do my speed for the first part of the year, and then do endurance the last part of the year. My kind of couple-year goal is to get back to Boston and be competitive, because I'm getting I'm getting close to like a big age group because I'm going to be 50.
No, you're lying about your age.
Yes. So it's still a few years away, but I want to go back in 2023 to Boston is my Boston goal date. So I want to get back in competitive shape for that.
Well, I think you'll probably do it. I mean, I don't see, as long as that Adam guy doesn't hold you back too much.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate your time. And, I love you guys. I miss you guys.
I know. We miss you, Joe. We miss you a lot. The boys miss Uncle Joe. Yeah.
And hopefully, everything is day to day, week to week and stuff. And we can't really, I think the best thing about being maybe an endurance athlete or, an athlete is that the one thing that you appreciate a lot is being able to adjust.
Yes. Yes.
And I think you guys have obviously adjusted to having the kids at home, training, and being full-time physicians. I mean, if ever there are people that we should just thank you, mahalo nui loa, to, certainly are you guys. I mean, is there any message that you want to send out to anybody, or anything that you want to promote? I mean, besides, let's promote West Hawaii Community Health Center.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very grateful for my employers' dedication to the community. We've always been community focused, and we continue to be, and we're open and we're supporting the community, and we're not going anywhere. I would say just in general for people to stay strong, to figure out the things that make you really happy. And I think we're still able to find that happiness in this kind of, uncertain time. And, whatever that, it's for us in endurance sports, it's our sport. And I think modifying it and just taking a moment to appreciate what we have is really important during these times.
Okay. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Mahalo nui loa.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. It's great to talk to you, talk story.
Mahalo nui loa to Dr. Laura Ankrum for having this little story. There was so much about her that I never realized. Olympic qualifier in the year 2000, or Olympic trials qualifier in the year 2000. Once again, it's just amazing the people we have here in Hawaii, and this is what I want to do. I want to talk story with the people and find out what they have done, what they have accomplished, and what they're going to accomplish too in the future. So again, if you want to support the show, you can subscribe on YouTube. If you just search for Big Island Hawaii Ultra, you'll find us. Or you can go to the website, which is HawaiiUltra.com. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher as far as the audio version goes. And you can always email me at joe@joefireball.com. So I hope everybody, a big shout out to on Mother's Day. Make sure that you take care of everybody's mothers, get taken care of. And I hope everybody's staying active. I hope you're staying responsible and just living a full life as we can nowadays, even though we have certain restrictions right now. So aloha.